Okay, well, hello everybody. This is Gary Feldman, president of U.S. Computer Connection.
And Ronnie Kaplan from Computer Training Solutions.
And we have a new person here, David Ganallo.
Hello, everybody.
David's our new manager of sales and marketing. So, Ronnie, we love doing these monthly webinars for everybody. And this one is on
Mail merge. Mail merge is used by individuals, by corporations to send 10 letters to your friends or 500 to your prospects. And you can do it with using your contacts from Outlook, using an Excel list. So we're going to see the different ways that you can use mail merge.
Okay. But first, a message from our sponsor, David.
So, folks, we're going to do something different where we post the archive. So I'm going to ask everyone to go onto our Facebook page. This is where we're going to put the archive link when it's available. And we also post, critical alerts, especially regarding recent activity on cyber, thieves and cyber crimes. Yesterday we did a post on tax scams, just making you aware and alert of these sorts of things. So go ahead and like us now so that you're aware when we post the link that you get the archive and you'll stay in the news of what matters, and that's IT.
Great. Thank you. So, Ronnie, why don't we get started?
Okay. So one of the things that you tend to do most often in terms of a mail merge is to send out a letter to a group of people that you might have in an Excel list, an Access list, or your contacts in Outlook. So I'm going to do first a merge letter. And the easiest way to do this is to open up the letter, the generic letter that you're going to be using without any addressee and without any greeting line, and we're just going to use that to start the mail merge. And there are a number of ways you can go about it, and I'm going to show you the way that I think is the simplest and the clearest. So first I would open up Word with your letter or memo or whatever it is you want to send, and then I would use the Mailings tab. And in that Mailings tab over on the left, there is a choice that says Start Mail Merge. If you click on Start Mail Merge, although you could go to Letters, I would suggest going down to the Step-by-Step Mail Merge wizard, which would allow you to see a panel on the right, and it's going to take you through 6 steps of doing the mail merge. It's also very much the same as we've had in Word for several versions, so it should look familiar if you've done the mail merge before. So it has letters up there already. Obviously, if it wasn't set for letters, which is the default, you could just select that. And then you'd go down to the next step, starting your document. So now it wants to know if you want to use the current document or if you wanted to start from a template or call up some other document you've done. So we've already put the document up here, which is the simplest way to begin. And so that's okay. We're going to use the current document, and we're going to go to Select Recipients. So here's where you have to know where is your list, and I want to get to that list. So I'm going to use an existing list. Type a new list is a choice here, but you certainly don't want to type the list while you're in here. So you want to have your list prepared. And probably most commonly people have a list in Excel or they're using their Outlook. So we'll do the Outlook contacts later. First, I'm just going to use an existing list that is actually in Excel. And I have that on my desktop in a folder, and I'm simply using an Excel file called Mailing List. And it just has a few contacts in it, maybe 10, 15, 20. Now, import. That's the name of the sheet in my list that has my contacts. So an Excel file can have multiple sheets. You want to clearly, if it has more than one sheet, you want to clearly name the one that you want to use for your contacts. So I'm going to say, okay, that's what I want to use. And very, very helpfully, it comes up with the actual list showing. So I can see who my contacts are. I can see what the information is. I have name, address, all kinds of address fields, and I even have an email field here. So I can uncheck ones that I perhaps don't want to send to. I can also filter the list and sort the list. Sometimes we're using huge lists, and in order to save mailing, you want to sort it by zip code, so you can do that. There's a little drop-down arrow to do that. Or if I didn't want to send to all these people, maybe I had thousands and I only want to send to the ones in a certain state, I can say filter, and I would filter by state, and I would say, let's say New York, and when I say okay, now I am only left with 5 because that's all I had in New York. So it makes it convenient. You can filter if you need to, and I'm going to say okay. All right, so now I go to the next step, write your letter. Okay, so now we need to put in really codes that will pull in the appropriate address information and salutation information. So I'm putting my cursor where I'd like my address, and they do have now what they call address block. And if your file is segregated into an address, street address, and then a state and a city and a zip, then this will work fine. If you don't have your address fields separated that way, then you might want to put in the fields separately. So here you can indicate how you would like the name addressed, whether you want a formal name, a less formal name, whether you want it to say Mr. or not, and so forth. So you can choose amongst quite a few different ways to do that. And I'm going to say okay. So I have an address block. Now I'm going to say, okay, I want a salutation, which they're calling a greeting line. So I'm going to click into greeting line, and I can indicate whether I want it to say dear or to or nothing. Again, how I'd like the name addressed, more formal or not. If I don't have a name, how I would like it to say, to whom it may concern, or dear madam, whatever. And I'm going to say okay, and there's my greeting line. So now I want to see how this is going to actually look. Seems to me I have an extra blank line, so you can fix that up. And I'm going to preview my letters. So now it is actually put in, I only had 5 because I narrowed it down to New York, but it has put in my 5 people from New York, and I can see whether it came out the way I like, and if not, I can always go to the previous step and redo something, so that's fine. I also want to mention that sometimes we have, in addition to address fields and email fields, we have other information. Maybe you have a coding for whether your clients are A, B, or C. Maybe you have some other information about sales quantity or something. You can put in any field that you like and into the letters. So I'm going to go back to the previous. So I'm here where I have my codes in. And at the end of the letter, I'm going to add another sentence that says not typing too well here, your city of, and I'm leaving a blank, has been selected for let's say we just call it a special promotion. So I want to show you how you can put in a code in addition to the address block and the greeting line. So if I click in where your city of, might need another space there. Notice that if I go to Insert Merge Field, that will give me all of the field names that I have in my particular file that I've attached it to. And at this point, since I'm indicating a city, I'm going to click on the city code. So now, and maybe I want a comma after that. Ooh, I think I put that code in the wrong place, actually. I have to move it over. Your city of. It has to be after the of. Okay. And again, you can put any exclamation, marks that you like, commas or colons or whatever. So now I'm going to say preview your letters, and you can see that the first letter that's going to a Michael so-and-so at Niagara Falls, and there's your city of Niagara Falls. And the next letter is going to someone in Lakeville, New York, and there you can see Lakeville. The spacing is a little off, and we can certainly correct that. So that's what you wanted to do. Now, if you want to now complete the merge, you can click on Complete the Merge, and this enables you to go directly to print, which you might want to do, but a lot of times if we're merging 500 letters, we don't want to tell it to go print that. We want to have it merge and have a file, and maybe we're going to print that file at another time or whatever. So I'm just going to tell it to edit individual letters, and when you do that, it gives you an opportunity to say all or certain records. I'm going to say all. We only have a few here. And this is going to create a file that has a separate page for each letter. So since I only had 5, it's going to have 5 pages, and each one is individual. If I wanted to add a PS to Jordan and say something particular to him, let's have lunch next week or something, I could do that. So what I edit here is going to be an individual letter. If I wanted to, I could save these or print them, and that's all it takes to do a mail merge of a letter, and it could be, as I said, 500, or it could be 10, doesn't matter. At this point, I'm going to close out of this document, and I'm not going to save it, since I don't need it. Okay, and I'm going to talk a little bit now about merge using email. So I'm going to go back to my Word letter. Okay. So I have the same blank letter here. And what if I want to send this letter to, but I want to use it, send it to my email contacts? Okay. So I'm going to say, again, here's my mailing. I'm using my mailing tab. I'm going to start the mail merge. I'm going to go to step-by-step mail merge. And I'm going to say email messages. Okay, so I'm going to send this as an email message. So I might want to edit it a little bit. So when I go to next starting the document, I probably don't want to put a date here because they're going to see a date in their email, and I don't need all of these extra spaces here. I'm going to use the current document, and I'm going to say select my recipients. Now, I might want to say now that I want to use my Outlook contacts, and so it's going to give me an opportunity to choose my contact folder. Okay, from Outlook. I only have one folder, and it has 40-some odd people in it, so I'm going to say OK. And again, it lists for me those people in my Outlook contacts, and I can unselect those people that I don't want to send to. If there are some that I don't want to send to, I can filter them and sort them and so forth. So let's say I'm going to take all of the rest of them, and I'm just going to say OK. Now I'm going to write my email message. And so you see it puts it kind of in an email format, in an HTML format here. And if I want to have a greeting line, I can. So if I say that, but probably in an email I don't want to say dear or to, I'm just going to have it use the name. So I'm just going to put in a name here. And then I'm going to say, okay. I might or might not want to say sincerely. I can modify whatever I like. And now I'm going to say preview my email. And so when I click on recipients, okay. And then I go to now it comes up when it goes to the mail merge to electronic mail. And here is where I can say, I want to do an email. It's going to use the email address in my file. And I can say the subject line is special promotion, or whatever your subject is. And HTML is the standard format. And do I want to send it to all? And if I say OK at this point, it's actually going to send these emails. And some of these might be real addresses, so I don't want to do that. But that would actually send it to them. So I'm going to cancel it and close out of that. And I'm not going to save anything right here. Okay. Now, what if I wanted to send labels? Okay. So if I wanted to create labels, I would first go to my Word, Microsoft Office Word. I just want to start with a blank document. I'm going to go into Word, and I'm going to go to start a blank document. Okay. So again, we have mailings, and over on the left, start mail merge. And again, I would suggest step-by-step mail merge wizard because it leads you through it step by step. And at this point, letters, which is the default, is not correct. So I'm going to click on labels. So it's going to create a list, really a chart or a table. And when I say starting the document, and then it gives you label options. I'm going to use, start from the existing document. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to change the document layout of the current document. I already told it I was starting from this document. And the layout means how do you want those labels? You know there are labels for file folders, labels for letters, labels for envelopes, all sorts of different labels. And what they typically have is a different listing of labels. I'm going to use Avery labels, they're most common, and I'm going to use one that says 5160, which are 1 inch high and 2.6 across, so you have 10 up and 3 across, basically. It's a standard.
Right, so when you buy these labels, those numbers are listed on the bottom.
Right, so you want to buy labels that fit one of these numbers. Theoretically, you can create your own label, but believe me, you don't want to do that. It's much aggravation. You'll wind up wasting all kinds of time and all kinds of labels. So they have a million different types. Buy the labels.
You could import all these labels also from Avery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're going to say OK. And when you do that, you should see a grid. And if you don't see the grid, go to the table. I don't see it here. Go to the table tools. We're in a table now, and so it gives you the contextual tab for table tools. And click on View Grid Lines. Because, I mean, you can do this without seeing the grid lines, but it's much more difficult or confusing if you can't see where everything is being placed. So I would turn on the grid lines, which is all the way on the left in the Layout tab for table tools. All right, and then I'm going to go back to my mailing stuff. And now we're going to have to pick recipients. So I'm going to say Next, Arrange Recipients. And I'm going to browse, and I'm going to use the same mailing list file from the desktop that I used earlier, just the mailing list. This is just an Excel file. Again, import is the name of the sheet that I'm using to import these. And I'm going to say, OK, this time I'm not going to filter them or sort them, but we could. And I'm going to just accept all of these mailing labels. And now it comes up with this next record. Your cursor's blinking in the very first label. And what you want to do is say, go to the next step to arrange your labels. And so what you want to do is put an address block in there. So again, I'm going to click on address block. I'm just going to accept the one that I would like it to have a Mr. or Ms. in it or something. And then I'm going to say OK. Now, here's a key. You need to say update all the labels. Otherwise, that address block is not going to be repeated in every label. So you want to make sure after you put your address block in that you update all labels. And you can preview them now. And so now I'm seeing all of those. Now what if I decide I don't like the font or I don't like the alignment or something like that? You can go to the previous where it has the codes and select them all. And the easiest way is just do Control A. It selects everything. And let's say I decide I want a different font. So I can go in here and I'll just pick something that looks different. So I'm picking Baskerville. Okay, now you want to be careful. You want to pick a font that's readable, and you want to pick, and you can change the size, but you have to be careful. If you make it too large and you have 4 or 5 lines in some of the addresses, it might cut off. This is only a 1 inch high label, so you have to test it out a little bit. So maybe I want to make it 11 point. That should work. And then I want to preview my labels again. And now you can see whether everything fits and whether you like the way the font looks, and you can always go back and change it. So now I'm going to complete the merge. And I can either, again, print them, obviously, onto label sheets, or I can edit the individual labels to create a document. So I'm going to edit the individual labels, and I'm going to say, give me all of these. And here is a document that can be printed out on label paper. Okay, it's only a 1-page thing because I had about 30 names. Now, if this is a list of people that you send to frequently, maybe it's your board members or maybe it's a committee of some sort or a group of people that have something in common that you send to often, you might want to print multiples of this so you have it easily in your file drawer and you can just whip them out and send them. Or you might want to save this file so that you can print it again next week or next month. Of course, if the members of the group change, then you have to add the person to the mailing list, wherever you're getting your list from, and you have to remerge. So it's a good idea perhaps to save or to print multiples if this is a list that is not basically going to change very often. Okay, so that's your mailing labels, and I'm going to close out of that. I am not going to save this list, but you certainly could. Okay, and we're back to square one. Okay, now, when you choose something from an Outlook folder, and let me just open up a Word document that has an offer for theater tickets, just as an example that you might want to email to a group of people. And I wanted to mention that if you're in Outlook and you're looking at contacts, you can choose to sort them or to filter them by various address fields. You can choose to sort or filter them by various fields that are given here. Let me give you an example. I don't see. I'm looking for Outlook here. Here we go. Here's Outlook. Okay, so if you go to contacts, you have different fields here in addition to company, email, region, phone. Now you also have a field, if you've chosen to use it, that you have a field called categories, and you might have chosen to use that. A lot of people do. You can make categories for things like personal versus business, client versus prospect, or if people belong to a certain group or whatever. And sometimes those categories are very helpful, but when you're first doing a merge from Word, you can't necessarily use categories as a way to choose who you're merging to. So one of the things that you can do, and I'm going to just create a few more people in a certain category. So if I choose, what do we have? All right, in order to see this, I'm going to move the category field a little closer so that we can see the category when we're looking at the names. And so I have a category that's red. Okay. And let's see if I do that. Okay, so here's category. I'm looking at a contact, and here are categories. And so if I go into this red category, if I want to assign that red category to something, I'm going to go to all categories, and I'm going to choose the red category, and I'm going to rename it. And let's say I'll rename it Friends, just to give it a name here. And then OK. So then when I save and close that, that has become Friends. If I then name somebody else here, if I open up somebody else and I go into category and I say Friends, and when I save and close it, now that person has the red and they're considered friends as well. So that's the idea. So it is an easy way to make a group of people. I'll take another one just so we have more than a couple. All right. So it's an easy way to get a grouping of people. And there are ways to say in the view that I would like to filter by categories. If you go if you go into the filtering choices, you have a few different ways to filter. Under the more choices, notice categories. And then you can pick your categories, but interestingly enough, they're not showing up. What if I say Friends? Okay, so now I've got the three that I indicated as friends. The reason I went through this with categories is because if you're going to do a mail merge and you only want to send it to the friends category or to the prospects category or to the business category, then you need to categorize them first, narrow it down by category, and then in your home tab in your email, you have a mail merge choice. And when you click on mail merge here, notice the default is all contacts in the current view. So in other words, if we go do a mail merge from here, it's only going to merge the ones that are listed as what I said as friends, because that's the one in the current view. And you can save that view for future reference if you want, or you can always recreate it in the filter. Okay, so if I say, okay, I want to merge that with an existing document, and then I browse to find a document, let's say it's my email offer. Oh, sorry, I probably have that open already. I'll browse to the merge letter. Okay, so then I say, okay, now I can use that group of contacts that I have used, applied a category to in order to do a mail merge. So I can go to the same kind of thing as I did before with my step-by-step and so forth. So that's a little bit about mail merge, labels, letters, using an Excel file. You can also, of course, use an Access file. We also used contacts in our Outlook, and also narrowed down those contacts by categories, if that's something that you want to do. Any questions?
So if you have any questions, just click on the chat section and just type your question in. We're happy to answer anything that you have. And we're also looking for new ideas. If you have an idea for our next webinar, we'd like to hear from you.
Yep. For those of you who are not clients, we discuss various topics of interest via webinar each month. More importantly, if you're not a client, we want to schedule a free network analysis so we can identify any gaps in your IT roadmap and keep you protected from any cyber threats or breaches. Again, we ask that you go onto our Facebook page and like us there. That's where we post the archive to this seminar, as well as other archived news, critical alerts, and training seminars like this and more.
Okay. And Ronnie, how do we get in touch with you?
Okay. I do training for corporate groups, and I also do training for individuals. And if you would like to contact me, I am Ronnie, R-O-N-N-Y, at computertrainingsolutions.biz, B-I-Z. Okay, or 203-329-2421.
And then, Ronnie, Sandy had a question about can you make a person in an Outlook in more than one category? And
yes, you can. And so if the person is a friend and also a prospect, they would show up in both those categories. So, you know, one might be blue, one might be red. You'd see both colors. And if you narrowed down your contacts to friends, that person would appear in the group. And if you narrowed it down to contacts, they would appear in that group as well.
Okay.
So thanks for your attention, everyone.
Have a nice day.